Mahi's eyes turned red due to tears. When Vedanta looked at her eyes, he came to her and asked her, "Hey, what happened? Why are you crying?" Mahi wiped her tears and said with a fake smile, "Nothing, Vedanta, just something went into my eyes, that's why my eyes were watering." Vedanta looked at her with deep eyes and then sat next to her and said, "Do you think I am a fool that I don't feel the difference between tears and water? Did Ranbir say anything?" Mahi looked at the other side and said, "No, there is nothing like that." Vedanta understood that Mahi did not want to tell him. Then he took a deep breath and said, "You may not tell me anything, but I have been noticing since yesterday, both of you are in a very bad mood." Then he looked at the front and said, "Sometimes when we share our feelings with someone, we feel relieved. If we keep our pain inside us, it increases day by day, which becomes very difficult for us to bear." But looking at Mahi, he said, "And you consider me your friend, so you can share your problems with me." Mahi looked at Vedanta with tears in her eyes and said, "Vedanta, sometimes I can't understand Ranbir. Sometimes he is so loving in front of me, so sometimes he looks different when he is angry. Whenever he is angry, I feel very scared of him. In anger, he also forgets how much he is hurting me." Hearing Mahi's words, Vedanta began to feel worried. He asked Mahi again, "Mahi, you tell me the whole story, what happened that made Ranbir so angry?" Hearing Vedanta's words, Mahi told him everything while crying. Seeing Mahi crying, Vedanta waved his hand on his head and said, "Mahi, please don't cry. Ranbir is very possessive with you, that's why he is reacting like this. But you should talk to him calmly once." Mahi wiped her tears and said, "Yes, but this doesn't mean that he doesn't listen to me. I also love him, but I never hurt him. But now I won't talk to him either. It's my own fault and he didn't convince me even once." Mahi was complaining to Vedanta like a little girl. Seeing her such innocence, a smile appeared on Vedanta's face. Mahi stood up to go from there. After thinking for a while, she turned towards Vedanta and pointed her finger at him and said, "And you are my friend, so you don't support your brother, you stay on my side, understood?" Hearing Mahi's warning, Vedanta smiled and said, "Okay, I will always be on your side, my sweet little friend." Hearing Vedanta's words, Mahi had a lovely smile on her face and she left from there. Vedanta kept looking at Mahi for a long time. Then he said in his mind, "Ranvir, how can you do that? How can this little innocent girl tolerate your madness? You are doing what I was afraid of. Be careful while you have time, otherwise you will lose Mahi forever." Everyone had dinner at night and went to their rooms. Mahi was going to stay in Ruhi's room tonight. She had told Ruhi that she wanted to stay in her room and study till late night. Ranvir had not come home yet. Although she was angry with Ranvir, she was still worried about Ranvir. But when Rudra was telling Anitaji that Ranvir will come late at night due to some work, Mahi also heard it, which relaxed her a little. She also felt that Ranvir was getting late due to office work. Mahi kept studying till midnight. She was not feeling sleepy today. That's why she wanted to study till late. Ruhi got tired and went to sleep. Mahi looked at Ruhi for a while and then went downstairs to make coffee. Ranvir came home late at night. He was going towards his room when he heard some noise. Ranvir went towards that noise. But when he looked in front of him, he saw a devil's smile on his face and he moved towards that direction. Mahi was in the kitchen. She went to the fridge to get milk to make coffee. Before she could take out the milk, someone closed her mouth from behind. She held Mahi's waist tightly with one hand. Mahi started trembling to get rid of her grip. But her grip was very strong on Mahi. Mahi's scream was suppressed in her mouth. Due to fear, tears started flowing from her eyes. Then she turned Mahi upside down from the pillar and closed her mouth tightly once again. Mahi saw Ranvir in front of her who was looking at her with a devil's smile. Mahi put her hand on his chest and tried to keep him away from her. But Ranvir did not move an inch from there. Instead, he came closer to Mahi and looked into her eyes and said, "You are trying to escape from me, wifey." But how can you forget that if anyone can save you from me, it is me? While saying this, her eyes could see the passion clearly. Mahi was looking at Ranvir with frightened eyes. Her eyes were wet with tears, and at that moment she was trembling with fear. Ranvir picked her up from his lap and moved towards his room. While crying, Mahi tried to get down from Ranvir's lap and said, "Please leave me, Ranvir." After seeing Mahi's efforts, Ranvir held her tighter. He came to his room and locked the door of his room with one of his legs and threw Mahi on the bed. Due to this, Mahi's mouth started to scream. Ranvir took off his coat and threw it on the sofa and started folding the sleeve of his shirt. Mahi once again got up from the bed and ran towards the door. But before that, Ranvir grabbed her by the waist and pulled her towards him. While crying, Mahi tried to get rid of him and said, "Leave me. Let me go, Ranvir." Despite his insistence, Ranvir tied him to the wall and blocked his way by placing both his hands around him. Ranvir was looking at his face carefully. Due to excessive crying, Mahi's small face turned completely red. He was getting very angry at Ranvir. She was hitting Ranvir's chest and saying, "Stay away from me. Don't come near me. You are very bad." Despite his words, Ranvir was looking at Mahi with a calm face. He was letting Mahi express his anger. When Mahi got tired, she turned her eyes and stood up. She was in a trance. When she became quiet, Ranvir said in his calm but cool voice, "Mahi, look at me." But Mahi didn't listen to Ranvir. She just stood there. Ranvir got angry at Mahi's insistence. But still, he controlled his anger and said, "Mahi, I am telling you to look at me. I won't repeat my words." Ranvir's words had a warning which Mahi couldn't ignore even if she wanted to. She looked at Ranvir. She was still in a trance. Anger was clearly visible in her eyes. And her long thick eyes were wet with tears. Due to crying, her cheeks and nose turned completely red. Mahi's anger was making her more beautiful. Ranvir was looking at his beautiful and delicate angel. She was looking at Ranvir in anger. Mahi complained to him. "What are you looking at? You must be thinking that why should I get angry and make Mahi cry?" Mahi was looking very cute while saying this. Seeing her innocence, Ranvir said, "How can a girl be so innocent?" Hearing Mahi's words, Ranvir's anger was gone. He hugged Mahi. As soon as he hugged Mahi, Mahi started crying like a small child. If Mahi was most afraid of Ranvir, she would find peace in Ranvir's arms. Ranvir's shirt was completely wet with Mahi's tears. When Mahi remembered Ranvir's behavior again, she started pushing him away again. But Ranvir was also holding him tightly. Mahi was venting her anger on him. She bit Ranvir's chest hard. Ranvir knew that Mahi would do the same. Because Mahi used to vent her anger on Ranvir like this. Like a small stubborn child. Ranvir also knew how to handle her. Ranvir didn't care about Mahi's bite. He just closed his eyes and held her. After biting Ranvir, Mahi looked at him. Ranvir fixed his hair with one hand, then put his hand on his cheek and said, "Are you done? Or is there still something left?" Mahi didn't answer him. She started looking at the other side. Ranvir told her to annoy him. "If you stay angry like this, I will leave you in the jungle. That too in a jungle where there are lions." Mahi looked at Ranvir with big eyes and said, "If you do this, Mom will scold you a lot." Ranvir said with a smile, "Yes, I will get scolded by Mom. But you think what will happen to you?" Mahi said a little scared, "Yes, you are right. You will only get scolded. But what will I do? I will die. The lion will eat me." Saying this, Mahi started crying again. Mahi could never understand Ranvir's joke. Because often Ranvir used to joke very seriously to annoy him. Ranvir was laughing a lot now. He said with a smile, "Don't cry. Anyway, only one lion can hunt you in the whole world. And that is me. And you are my prey." Saying this, he bit Mahi's cheek. Mahi opened her mouth and looked at him and said, "You always annoy me like this." Then Mahi said with a smile, "I am still angry with you. And I will not talk to you for 3 days. And 3 days are not over yet. Understood?" Ranvir asked Mahi with his small eyes. "Meaning?" Asking this, Ranvir picked up Mahi in his arms and brought her to the bed. And put her on the bed. Then sat next to her and put both his hands next to her. And bowed down on her and asked her, "Why won't you talk to me for 3 days?" Mahi said with her long eyelashes. "Because Dadi had told me, when Dadaji used to get angry with her, she also didn't talk to her for 2 to 3 days. And Dadaji used to convince her. Then I am also your wife, so I will also do the same. Until you don't convince me." After hearing this, Ranvir thought, this Dadi is also spoiling my innocent wife. Ranvir came closer to Mahi's face and said, "So my wife wants me to convince her?" Mahi put her hands on Ranvir's chest and said, "Yes, until then you can't come close to me. And neither can you kiss me." Ranvir bowed down to his lips and said, "So this is the punishment you have thought for me. But a small kiss is required, isn't it?" Mahi quickly put her hand on her lips and shook her head. Ranvir took a deep breath and got up from the bed. Then he saw Mahi and shook her head and went to the washroom. Will Ranvir convince Mahi or torture her in anger? Will Vedanta talk to Ranvir about his angry behavior? To know more, keep listening to Oh Baby only on Love Pulse Diaries.